What is up, everybody? We are live with the IBN NFL Fancast NFC East edition. As you can see, I have with me Sam and Tony. Unfortunately, couldn't find anybody to jump in for the oh my gosh. I couldn't find anybody to jump in for the Giants and the Commanders. So I will be representing those fan bases. And if you have any complaints, by all means, file them um, with the complaint department, honestly. I am no fan of the NFC East, as people will know, but I promise you, I will keep my bias out of my analysis. If I feel like something's bad, I'll say it. If I feel like it's good, I'll say it. These two know well. I have defended their separate fan bases on occasion, but I do have a lot of fun acting like a Cowboys fan for some reason. it's it's one of the longest running bits in the group, man. Like to the point where people really thought I was a Cowboys fan and thought Ronnie was a Niners fan at one point because we argue counter. It's just one of those trolls. But if you're on Facebook and you want to comment, you can do so. And I'll be able to post the comments on here. But if you want us to know the name, just click on the StreamYard/Facebook, go in, log in through that, and you'll be able to put the names out. But without further ado, because I do have a college football podcast to do after this, I need a secretary. Let's get to it. The division winner can go first. And in 2022, the division winner was none other than the Philadelphia Eagles. Sam, recap the 2022 season. Give us some analysis. How did you think it went?
It's hard to be anything other than effusive and positive about the 2022 season. My expectations going in were very middling. I thought that we were in an admirable position because I expected that we would go 9-8 or 10-7. I thought that we had a really team favorable contract for Jalen Hurts, and we were going to find out who he was. And they really surrounded him with a lot of talent, and he would either be a really good quarterback who played at an MVP level, or he would be somebody that we could get rid of and use our draft capital to get a top level quarterback. He obviously turned out to be really good. It was a better season than anybody expected. I know I was in groups. I mean, to tell you about how like brain poison some of the Eagles fans were, there were people who were talking about starting Gardner Minshew the beginning of last season.
Mm-hmm.
Just ridiculous. I think that obviously the Super Bowl was disappointing, but in sports, your most glaring weakness is going to show up at the worst possible time. And I was concerned about our defensive coordinator all year. From week one, when we almost lost to the Lions, I thought, for the amount of talent that we had, just Gannon couldn't scheme. And I'm not an X's and O's guy the way that you are, Alan, but I just couldn't. I just didn't think he was very good as a coordinator. And that showed up in the Super Bowl at the very worst possible time against two people who are about as good as it gets in football. I think that you play who's in front of you, and the Eagles got a little lucky with the playoffs, but they won and they got there, and that's what matters. So it's hard to be negative about last season when I didn't expect them to go beyond the divisional round.
Yeah, I was not a fan of Gannon. I think I was critical of Gannon the entire year from the time the first game started. For me personally, I just thought that the defense should have been a more aggressive defense. He had arguably the most athletic defense in the NFL, and that was from the first time they hit the field, just a collection of athletes. And I just felt like they just sat back a little too much for my liking. One of the storylines, and I think the number one question we all want to know is, what does Howie have on the NFL to make him get all these easy deals? This is ridiculous at this point.
I think that he had a period where he really should have been. I was very much into the idea of firing him. Honestly, after I thought that last year was going to be a referendum on him. He's had 2 great drafts, but prior to that, he had drafted Zach Ertz, and I think that was the last Pro Bowler. This is Wentz and Zach Ertz were the last Pro Bowlers that he drafted, and it's like he just sort of got lazy after he got the job back from Chip Kelly, and once they won a Super Bowl, he sort of went to sleep. And then it came out that they were going to fire him, basically, and he's come back with a vengeance.
He's come back with some dirt, man. It's really ridiculous. All right, Tony. Just because there are no other fan reps, you get the floor. Recap the 2022 Dallas Cowboys season. This will probably be the only time that you'll be allowed to talk Dallas without interruptions.
Well, we had a lot of good and a lot of bad, and we made the most of it. The good being Dan Quinn, obviously. Mike McCarthy was basically coaching for his job the whole year. I mean, let's just be honest. Everybody thought that, move McCarthy out, bring Sean Payton in, and then Dak getting hurt looked pretty bad at the beginning of the season. But McCarthy coached his way out of it with Cooper Rush, and we got that little win streak going on to keep us basically alive until Dak came back. Young defense, young offensive line, which is our 2, I guess kind of tipping points, because without that offensive line, we definitely need we got to keep Dak upright. We know what he is at this point. But the defense, I think the defense overachieved for what they were as such a young group compared to what we had with Mike Nolan. It's obviously a great improvement there. So it's a disappointing end to the season. But I still think we were a year away from where we were supposed to be as far as youth and coming together, things like that. So didn't like to lose to the 49ers, especially not to Brock Purdy like that, but it is what it is.
It could have been worse. Could have been Christian McCaffrey.
Could have been Josh Johnson.
I know, right?
I have a question for Tony, because I don't get why anybody would to me. I have not gotten this. Sean Payton is a lateral move to me from Mike McCarthy. Yeah.
Well, see, I think it is too, but so many people have Sean Payton in this deity tier, where he's like Belichick or something. But I don't know. We'll see. I don't think he's that great of a coach. I think that he did some stuff in New Orleans, and they obviously got punished for it, and things kind of bounced in his favor. But I don't think he's a great coach. I think he's a good coach. I don't think Mark McCarthy's a great coach either. But I just think they're both kind of guys, and I think Sean Payton's going to run himself out of favor in Denver before too long. So I don't know how that's going to bounce out.
It's probably a push, honestly. You got 2 guys who had Hall of Fame caliber quarterbacks. They only got 1 Super Bowl between the 2 of them. McCarthy had it made, honestly, in Green Bay. He just couldn't get it done. Him and Aaron Rodgers, honestly, in the playoffs. And then same could be said for Sean Payton. You want to talk about somebody that overcoaches. He's got numerous situations in the postseason where he's kind of shot himself in the foot. And then he has this thing where he always blames the refs at the end. And it is kind of annoying. I just think the way McCarthy came in.
Let's not forget about Bountygate.
Yeah, that too. But honestly, my only issue with Bountygate is it's probably more prevalent than people want to talk about at that level. It is what it is at that point.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I just can't get over how McCarthy came in talking analytics and kept making all these dumb jokes, and then you could tell he just was not using analytics. I still think he gave Kellen Moore too much reign, and he paid for it a little. But the number one thing, obviously, that I would ask you, is which Dak Prescott is real, because the Dak Prescott that came in with those 12 games and all those turnovers and stuff, that's not really who he is. Like, I've watched Dak enough at this level, and I've been critical. I watched film and things like that. He just seemed like he was pressing more so than he has done in years past. I think it was somebody in his ear, something like a philosophical shift in his approach to the game, because I know one of the complaints was that you guys were too conservative at taking shots. What is your take on that? And will having McCarthy be the play caller change anything?
I just didn't like how predictable Kellen Moore's. Like, there's a difference with between having good plays and then calling a good game.
Mm-hmm.
Kellen Moore has some good plays, but at times, like, it was just so predictable. Like, the last half of the season, anybody, even a novice that's just picking up, is going to see what these route combinations are. Like, the offense was so stagnant, everybody knew what we were running. So even just a fresh look, a fresh view of things is going to help Dak out, because I mean, for the past, I'd say since right before Thanksgiving, it seemed like they were sitting on every route that we were running. It's like they just knew what we were running, and it's no free flowing offense, no spacing, no creativity, just kind of the same thing that we've been doing, and it's kind of not really hard to figure out. So I think Dak is a good enough quarterback to where if you give him a fresh look, he can be, back to what he's normally being, a not turnover prone quarterback, and he can run an offense. It's hard to run an offense with no separation.
Yeah, and one of the things about Dallas that I've always been hypercritical about too is the team is so much more efficient offensively when they're in third and shorts. But like you were saying, it doesn't seem like the team knew that, because they would call games in a way that makes me feel like, do you guys not realize that you're like 45% better at converting drives into points when you're at 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1, even 3rd and 4? Anytime you get over 3rd and 5, for some reason, it just to me, the efficiency from like the eye test seemed like it dropped a little. I would have to go back and look, but I used to say that on the Sunday podcast, like, dude, just get in the 3rd and shorts, because you think about the way the team was built with Zeke, the offensive line, and even Dak Prescott. He's comfortable with play actions. You have more flexibility in those situations because you have to honor Zeke and Tony Pollard. Even when Zeke was banged up, he's still getting 3-4, 3-5 a carry. So you get in 3rd and shorts, you're gonna have to play both sides.
And then with Kellen, it kind of got to the point where he was trying to get too creative with his runs. Like the motion fake reverse pitch to Tony Pollard. Like, just line up, and run the ball. You don't have to try to outsmart a run play. We just got to get to, like I say, a third and 3, which is manageable, instead of running on 2nd and 10. We're running some reverse pitch to Tony Pollard just to try to get him into space, but that's just not consistent football.
Yeah, I never saw Kellen Moore play where I was like, damn, that's a great design. I'm just being honest. But there were 2 other teams in the division, one of which everybody knows I am not a fan of, and that is the 8-1 Washington Commanders. But the Giants also went 9-7-1. I think it's fitting that we put them together since they did tie. The irony in this is that the Giants started 7-2 in their first 9 games. They were looking pretty hot, and then life caught up to them, and they finished 2-5-1. The schedule did get a little bit tighter for them in the end. Not much discrepancy between the first 9 and the last 8 for the Commanders. One of the funniest moments of the season across the NFL was when Ron Rivera did not realize that the team had been eliminated in the game, in the loss to the Browns, I think. I found that hilarious. But I call it house money Giants, man. They were good against the spread. Gamblers know that. And then they were just a great outright winner too in certain spots. But having Dabble come in, am I saying it right? Dable. Yeah, I'm trying, man. I'm trying not to let the country out of me. But Dable come in with a fresh look in the system, and having that be the first year, it was good. I thought them winning 9 games was good. Them getting into the playoffs, even though they got smacked by the Eagles, just that whole process is good. The Steelers, what'd you say?
They beat Minnesota.
Yeah, they did. And it's one of those things like with the Steelers, when you have a team that's never like they're young and you got this like fresh start across the organization as far as the players, you want to get as much experience as you can. So even just getting one playoff game with that Giants team, I think, and that staff was great. But the main thing about the Commanders is just, like off the field. It's always been like that. Daniel Snyder is a dark cloud on that organization. And thankfully, end of the season, they finally got rid of him. Ding dong, the witch is dead. But the Giants didn't really have much going for them in the offseason because they had a lot of young talent last year, not really looking to make any big giant splashes. But they did pick up a couple guys. Commanders more so, again, off the field, new ownership, new offensive coordinator that we're all familiar with, Eric Bieniemy. And then, I'll go back to you, Sam, the 2023 offseason grade explanation, like not getting into the draft just yet, but what you guys did as far as just the roster and coaching staff, because you guys are in a flux, man. There's a lot of turnover. You lost a hell of an offensive coordinator in Steichen, and I've done a TikTok on him. Big fan of him, even during the season. Gannon, I don't think you'll miss so much, but still, nevertheless, you lost staff when you lost them as well.
I'm in terms of the offseason, I did just want to say one thing, which is that about the Commanders, which is that if Ron Rivera is the coach at next, like not 2023 but 2024, I'll be shocked. He's got the Rich Kotite Memorial, new owner, fuck, I can't remember the term, but coach who's just going to maybe have a year left. I mean, that he's coaching for his job this year. It's very funny to me. The offseason for the Eagles, I thought that they did, Howie Roseman's done a really good job building this team. I really was disappointed to lose Steichen. It's the second time. It makes me nervous as much because it's the second time that an offensive coordinator has left after a Super Bowl for Indianapolis. That's why I'll never forgive Josh McDaniels. But I have a feeling about Gannon being gone. I just think that, like you said, the amount of talent that they had, I actually thought that considering the scheme, they overperformed. So I'm looking forward to seeing that with the guys, especially the Georgia kids, what they'll be able to do for and I think that there's just a lot of there weren't a whole lot of weak spots. I'm not thrilled that we let CJ Gardner-Johnson go, but he's hurt, so not there's a cap. You can't keep everyone.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with that.
As far as the Cowboys go, I mean, they are America's team. Everybody gravitates to them anytime they make a move. But with the offseason for them is always what they didn't do. Tony, where are you at on Dallas as far as what should have been done, what didn't get done? Obviously, you don't have Kellen Moore anymore, but your head coach said he'll take over play calling duty. What's your expectations based off of your 2023 offseason?
Well, I mean, our offseason, I think, was pretty good. We went and got, it's un-Jerry-like, but we went and got a need. So we went and got Gilmore, which I don't think enough people are talking about.
Yeah, I agree.
Because, I mean, as good as our defense was last year, we had an obvious leak in the boat on that other corner position and have had for the past 2 or 3 years. the opposite of Diggs, you could have put anybody out there, and it was just terrible. So we shored that up, and it didn't really cost a lot. Cooks obviously is a big addition. We lost Schultz, but quietly as it's kept, our tight end room is actually pretty solid. Is what they're saying. Jake Ferguson is a name that a lot of people aren't familiar with, but you need to be. He's going to be every bit as the receiver that Schultz was, and he's a better blocker. So, and then that's before the draft. Obviously, we let Zeke go, which, like I said, it's a cap casualty. You hate to see him go, but there's just no way we can keep him for that price tag. It's just absolutely can't happen. So, franchise Pollard, which means he's probably going to be gone next year, most likely.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. Glad to see Zach Martin back in camp because that got a little dicey for a second, So, and then once we started in the draft, we lost Overshawn, which is going to be big, and he's out for the year. As he was going to be our future linebacker. Yeah, that's him right there. And I like Mozzie. We'll see. You got to give him time. Just the same way, Jalen Tolbert, our rookie last year, wide receiver that we drafted, complete dud last year, but he's been showing out in the preseason so far and in training camp. So we'll just see about the future on that. Obviously got to stay out of trouble. Sam Williams, I don't know how bad that's gonna hurt. And for the love of God, can we bring in a kicker? I don't care who it is. Call it something. This is ridiculous. Like, we're 2 weeks away from opening, first game, and we have no idea who our kicker is. No clue.
Kicking can be important, especially, and I'm not trolling. I swear I'm not. But the Cowboys are one of the most inefficient.
We found out how bad it was at the end of the year. We were in a playoff game and could not kick a field goal.
Yeah, of all the teams to find a way to make it be an issue, Dallas always finds a way. Hell, at one point you were looking for a holder, which you never hear people even care about that, but that was an issue.
I can't believe a Florida State fan is, and I'm probably dating myself here with this joke, but I can't believe there's a Florida State fan.
You're not dating yourself at all. We just, unfortunately, and I mean this with all due respect, when Bobby passed away, we let go of wide left, wide right. Okay, that's a new era now. All right, let's get off that. But
Fair
Sam, obvious question for you, and you can't say all of them, but what was your favorite Georgia draft pickup for the Eagles?
So at the time, my favorite pickup was you just mean this past year, not of the last 2 years?
Past year. Yeah, this past year.
It was at the time it was Nolan Smith. No, I'm sorry, it was Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter initially. Nolan Smith after the preseason. I think Jalen Carter is going to need about a year to get, he's somebody who's really raw. He's had some good, the Colts practice, he looked really good. And I think that he's somebody who, when pushed, seems like he responds well to being challenged. But Nolan Smith just had himself, if you watch the last preseason game, and it feels stupid talking about preseason, but he looked pro ready in a way that he just had plays where he looked like a freak in terms of catching people. There was a reverse where he just chased, a wide receiver down in a way that I actually sent my brother because I was like, oh man, I sent him from two different angles because I was so excited about the play. But I think that Jalen Carter will be the overall better player in the long term. But for immediately, I think Nolan Smith's the bigger, even though linebacker isn't as important.
So I'm going to have to disagree with you a little bit here because I scouted Carter and Smith pretty heavily Love Nolan Smith. Very high on Nolan Smith. Hell, when we did the edge rusher thing, I think I had him as my second or even my first edge rusher. That just based off of what he brings to the table in athleticism. That receiver he ran down, I think, was a 4.3 receiver. He was getting held and still caught up with him.
4.25. 4.25.
Yeah. Like it's still amazing that he can.
Yeah,
he's already displayed a talent level that I wasn't anticipating with his awareness of how to use his hands. Like that's not something that you really see with guys who play linebacker and then come down the rush a lot of times. Usually they just beat people with their speed. You don't really see coordinated moves. Michael Parsons is getting there too. I don't know if you guys remember, but he literally took McGlinchey and threw him into the next state. And that's a heavy-handed, old school Reggie White. I'm a muscle you move. Like a lot of edge rushers who are not natural edge rushers don't understand the ebb and flow of the technique involved in the position. But Jalen Carter, I mean, this is a family-friendly show, but he's a fucking beast, bro. Like he's ready now. Like Jalen Carter, if Jalen Carter's not a top 3 defensive lineman in the conference, I would be shocked if he's not top 5 in the like league on his rookie season. I will be disappointed. Yeah, I will be disappointed. The kid is crazy good, man. I'm telling you, crazy good. The only thing I always hold on to with these guys coming from college to the NFL is their conditioning, because it's just a different game because you're going against bigger, stronger guys on a regular basis, on a regular flow. There are no off days in the NFL, whereas in Georgia, you get a Western Kentucky or something like that on your schedule. You can kind of ease a little bit. But, I mean, I don't think the Panthers are going to be good, but they're still going to work you, especially in the trenches.
But the advantage is that we cycle
much. You guys do.
I think that he'll have a chance to be spelled, which is big. I think that, it really is just kind of amazing to me. The last 2 drafts it speaks to the depth of Georgia too, that they are so like the players that we've gotten. I have been a little disappointed by Ringo so far this preseason.
He's got to find the ball.
Yeah. Just the last couple drafts, as I said, from Howie, been like, I didn't know he had this in him. These 2 drafts have been 2 of the best drafts that he's had as the GM, and back to back like that is just really, he had a really good draft the year that we drafted Lane Johnson, I think it was, where he drafted, and then he like went to sleep, and then he was like, oh yeah, I can draft good players. I don't have to just sign them.
Well, one of the things too, Tony, because I know you were saying like in the league with Jalen Carter, you got to think of the tandem he's working with. Like he's got a lot of talent around him, and he's in the interior. Like if they put my big boy from last year, what's his name?
Davis.
If they put Davis beside him, Davis is going to move the pocket. Ain't no one man blocking him. So then you're going to be forced to double him just to keep a comfortable pocket. And then you got Jalen Carter, naturally athletic, naturally talented, just overall with this technique and stuff. I think it just makes it easier for him. When Haason Reddick and those guys come back, and you got these edge rushers, you got Nolan Smith who's disrupting as well. He's going to get a lot of favorable matchups. He's not going to get the Aaron Donald, we're all going to block you stuff. And you still got Fletcher Cox, who can give you spurts here and there. And I'm pretty sure Fletcher's teaching them everything he knows too. So it's just one of those things I just think it sets up for him to be a menace.
So, side note, I personally haven't been wowed, but how do you feel about Mozzie?
I think Mozzie might take a year just because conditioning was an issue with him when he was in college. If he's in shape, he's probably one of the strongest in the league. Like seriously, he's an absolute menace. I don't know if his athleticism when it comes to generating sacks. Like I think Jalen Carter has that ability to be the Aaron Donald and who's my other guy from the Chiefs? I'm drawing a blank for some reason. Like he's got that ability to do both. Not only stuff the run, but generate sacks.
I need Hankins and Mozzie to get a push up front to stop the run. I mean, sacks are going to come
Mhm.
with we got guys that we got Tank, Micah, Williams if he's out there. I'm not worried. I'm just need somebody to hold the line because we got pushed around a lot towards the end of the year, and that's not what I want to see.
Yeah, and that's really what you need in today's league. You got to have somebody that can move the pocket, even
Right.
and if you are fortunate enough to get that rare combination that they move the pocket and get sacks. I hate that Fletcher Cox isn't a young buck anymore because he was overshadowed by Aaron Donald a lot of his career.
Fletcher
But
Cox is so good, man.
yeah, he was a beast, man. He just
His-
he just played with Aaron like in the Aaron Donald prime era, and nobody talked about him really.
Hey, Philadelphia fans did. We just
Yeah,
Mozzie Smith, just as a Michigan fan, I can tell you that he made leaps each year, and his last year, there's a lot of concern with Hutchinson and Jabo leaving, and for Mozzie Smith to step up the way that he did was impressive. So I'm with Alan that I think that he's going to need another year because he was right. I think he had asthma or something. I can't remember what the story was, but he had like. What were you saying? No.
I was saying it was something related to conditioning. It could have been asthma, but I just know that like it was pretty consistent in people's evaluation of him. Like every con was like, is he out of shape or is he just a big guy?
Yeah.
I got to see if he's got the motor. I mean, if he's got the motor, I think Quinn can work with him. If he doesn't, then I don't know.
Yeah, and honestly, Quinn's such a great defensive coordinator, and he's worked with all kind of multifaceted skill levels. I don't doubt that he can't get the most out of him. I'm just not sure he's going to get him on 60% of the snaps his rookie season. If you could get 65% snaps with Mozzie, I think you're doing a good job right there. I have to take a look at him further in the preseason. But I haven't actually watched any Cowboys preseason games either. I've just been really pissed off that Dak isn't playing. I want to see this Texas coast, man.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see at least one series with the full offense. Because I want to see. It's not really Dak that I want to see. I want to see Cooks. I want to see Cooks. I want to see Gallup. I want to see these guys out there. Like, I just don't think that you can just roll it out there week one and see that everything's good.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that mentality for this team either, but it's what they're doing. I don't have much to say about the Commanders all season outside of what they did off the field because honestly, I mean, their draft, I was hypercritical of the draft. I just thought they reached on like everything. A lot of it didn't make sense. Forbes has had a pretty decent preseason. I don't know if it was just because everybody's starting out vanilla and whatnot. He looked a little bit scared of speed in some of the early downs, but when he's come up and made adjustments, he's been fine. He hasn't been bullied, like talking about it, even though one of the big knocks on him was his weight. Other than that, I thought they reached for Forbes. I thought they reached for Jatavius Martin, and I thought that.
You think Hal is the guy, or do you think this is just a stopgap?
Do I think who's the guy?
Hal.
You said Al?
Howell.
Hal. He looks comfortable in the system. I think he'll do fine just because he's not afraid to throw it, and you gotta have that. And like if you think about McNabb, even Foles, all these guys that have worked through Andy Reid type systems, the quarterbacks who've been successful are the ones who were willing to pull the trigger. Turnovers be damned. Trust the scheme. People will be open. And I think he showed that in that first half. I saw a lot of that on the 3rd and long when the guys were sitting in the zones, running around across the field, crossing the hash mark areas. They ran a double mesh, which I thought was a great look for going against a defense in preseason. They get the two guys cross the middle of the field. You're like, what the hell? But I thought he looked comfortable in what would be the basic elements of what we know to be Andy Reid's offense, because it's going to be Andy Reid's offense. And I think he's got the arm strength, although some of it I want to say is a little overrated. Like they scouted him like he had Josh Allen cannon, and I'm like, I don't know, it's above average. I didn't think it was like an A grade arm. I would give it a B plus max.
For some reason he just reminds me of like Chase Daniel with a bigger arm. That makes sense.
He's a gamer though too. I do like that when they do need the plays to be extended, he can do that for them. He's definitely a better option than Jacoby Brissett, and he's going to need to be, because the offensive line is slightly improved, but it's still not that great of an offensive line. His running game, it'll be there, but I'm not sure if they know what they want to do, because I think Robinson's their main guy now. But what are they going to do with my guy from Memphis, Gibson? Like, he's a talented guy. Are they going to scheme him?
The ball.
Huh?
Okay.
Okay.
That's what I thought. I thought that was the book on him, why they went with Robinson. But
if Tiki can change, so can Gibson.
Do you think there's going to be any? I mean, did you hear already about the issue with, or not issue, but the what's his name? Rivera talking about how he thought the Bieniemy was riding the players too hard, and he thought that he should be more like Jack Del Rio. Just like, honestly, one of the most amazing comments that I've heard all off season. Like, have you heard about this? Am I?
No. Well, I put that
this?
in there. I put that in there. So what he said was he was saying that they're two different guys, Del Rio and Bieniemy, and that Bieniemy coaches a certain way, Jack does it a certain way, and that he was going to be hands off, and that the players need to make the adjustments, is what I took from his conversation. And Bieniemy's from a winning program. He's from a winning system, a winning team. Like, it's a different mentality. Andy Reid is killing them boys right now. He ain't giving his starters no break. Their training camp is as if they haven't won a Super Bowl, and that's how he's running it. And I'm pretty sure Eric Bieniemy is probably under the same way, because he's already a tough-minded guy anyway. He probably came in and he wants physicality, he wants effort, he wants people to act like they want to win. And if I can go on a little rant, that's really been the problem with Washington football for over the last, since Joe Gibbs left. Is all these guys have this sense of entitlement because they are adored by the fans up there, and they are pretty much the only team in this general area that people can root for. But you haven't done anything. So I think Bieniemy is going about it the right way. And if guys don't want to buy into it, then get the hell out. It's that simple.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought that it was kind of an amazing. I mean, I would never. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I can't imagine being just looking at the track record between Jack goddamn sorry, I know it's a family show, but Jack Del Rio and Eric Bieniemy, and being like, oh yeah, Del Rio's the guy who we should emulate. Just given track records as much as anything.
But I don't know. Ron's probably on his way out too, man. I wouldn't be surprised if there was already a hush hush handshake that Bieniemy is going to take over the team in the next year or so.
I wouldn't be surprised if they start out struggling. I wouldn't be surprised if they pull the trigger.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems,
Since people are mad about the Giants offseason marred by the Saquon contract controversy. Shout out to, everybody in the group that says running backs don't matter. There are select teams that cannot say that, and the Giants are one. Their quarterback literally got paid because the running back mattered. His best season, ironically, was when Saquon was the healthiest, and they got a new offensive coordinator and a new coach. But I digress. He's not going to be successful without Saquon. And so Saquon's back. He held out for an extra $1 million. It was tough negotiations. But
$1 million and then a bunch of incentives.
He's never getting those incentives for sure.
I mean, but you have to wonder if it makes. I sometimes don't get that. I mean, what's the ceiling on the Giants? Are they going to do more than they did last year? I mean, they're going to win wild card game, maybe win the divisional. I mean, they're not going to do more than that. And if that's the case, like, why not just bottom out and try to get a quarterback on a rookie deal and rebuild around that? I mean, it's I think Dable did an admirable job. I just don't see the logic in being good. If you could blow it up with a new coach, a new regime, just do it. Start over. Fine, suck, be terrible. Get a quarterback that you can have as a franchise and go from there.
Got a good coach.
Yeah.
You have the coach. You have enough talent. I don't know if you just don't have the right quarterback, or I don't. Like I said, they went and got a lot of weapons in this offseason. They drafted and went and got a lot of receivers.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I think it's more of the confidence in the growth that they saw in Daniel Jones. Like, Daniel Jones looked like a quarterback that you could trust a little last year, and he didn't look dysfunctional. And to his credit, he had a lot of injuries at receiver last year, and it was the Daniel Jones and Saquon show, and they got 9 wins out of it. So I think for them, looking at that one small framework, they're like, okay, we have something that we can work with. Let's give it a little bit more time. And I'm not opposed to people not scrapping, like the Justin Fields argument. People were saying, maybe they should trade him and get Bryce Young or somebody. Like, if you see you got enough talent to win football games, I mean, at this point in the NFL, man, you should just go ahead and work with that. And plus, they had some. They're not paying a lot of people, so they've got room to do moves in the offseason. You said what?
Obviously not Saquon.
Yeah. Now they picked up Darren Waller and Paris Campbell. Those are 2 names that people will probably recognize. They gave you a heavy dosage of Waller in their last preseason game. He should feature. If you peeped my Richie James TikTok, the guy who is the offensive coordinator for the Giants was also the passing game coordinator, and once again, part of the Andy Reid tree. So there's a lot of elements in his offense that are similar to what Andy Reid and those guys do at Kansas City. And so Darren Waller will probably see a huge uptick in production because they will definitely use him like they use Kelsey, and he seemed like he was ready for it. They lined him up in multiple places. He was crossing people's faces, going vertical. He was all over the place, and so he'll feature a lot. But one of the names that doesn't come up often was Bobby Okereke. I swear I tried. The linebacker from the Colts. I swear to you guys, I did look at the names and try to pronounce them before the show. But
Okereke is right,
yeah,
I think.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Bobby, I feel like doesn't get talked about a lot because I'm not a big fan of the Giants defense. And this is where somebody who is actually a fan would probably be better at describing or talking about what they do. But to me, throughout the preseason and even last year, they just seem like they get pushed around a lot. And this is a linebacker who's probably his number one attribute is that he's good against the run, but he's also a pretty good coverage linebacker as well. So I think he can really stabilize inside the trenches for them and in that box, something that they've struggled with in the past. But I don't know if there's any hope for the secondary. But God bless them.
Okay, so up front they have what? Williams, Thibodeau, and who else am I forgetting?
They picked up the dude from I wrote it down. Was it Robinson?
Yeah.
Ashawn, yeah.
So I mean that's a good start, and obviously you need, they say linebackers don't matter, but they do.
Oh, they do. Yeah.
They do. I mean,
they do. I mean,
it's like the running back thing is like you can't. You need good.
What, second year or rookies?
You said most of their starters. Yeah, they're a young team.
They're secondary. Like they're starting. Aren't they starting all second year players? Is that or I don't know.
Yeah, it's generally a young team. So like if you could throw a dart and the guy's probably under 23, 24, maybe around that age, which is fine. Again, it's a young staff, it's a young team. Like this is probably, if you're the Giants and you're the fans, you should be optimistic about this year, but I'll get to that later on why I would err on the side of caution. But I wanted to talk about Hyatt. That is my favorite Giants pick. I don't have a favorite pick for the Commanders. I'm sorry. You could default Forbes, but Hyatt I think is going to be phenomenal in their system. He's as fast as advertised, and if you don't know how fast he truly can be, ask Alabama secondary. They found out the hard way. And I think some teams are going to be really upset when he's flashing across the field and getting those yards after the catch.
He's a burner. Like
yeah,
there's just no.
Yeah, he's going to be a problem, and they'll get him the ball.
Receivers too. Like he's probably like 4 or 5 right now. They got to,
Yeah,
They got Beasley too.
I don't know if Beasley's going to make the team. I did star that just because he's been kind of injured, and I think with Hyatt producing, they're getting Sterling Shepard back, and I think there's another guy they're getting back to. If there was a casualty, I think from a staffing standpoint, you look at the roster. If it doesn't pan out with some of these guys, you can always bring Beasley back. I don't think there'll be a market for him because he's been injury prone during the preseason. So they might cut him and just kind of keep an eye on him and bring him back if they need to.
That's actually for the Eagles in the preseason. I've been really pleased with the kid from Stanford. Mm-hmm. As I think that Mariota might not make the team. I could see rolling in with Tanner McKee at the 2 and Ian Book at the 3, and given Hurts, the style of play that Hurts has, you need a good backup quarterback. You need somebody who can, spell. I mean, I figure at least a game or 2. And that's entirely possible. And I wouldn't be happy, but like watching Mariota's just been god awful these playoffs. Again, I don't want to put too much on preseason, but
I mean he was god awful. He was god awful last year.
Yeah, I mean that's the
So going into the 2023 season, and I'll run through my 2 teams real quick. Commanders projected at 6.5, Giants 7.5. So they're looking at 7 wins for the Commanders, 8 wins for the Giants. I said that the Giants' schedule this year was much harder than last year. And I'm not trying to, again, not being biased. Like they had it pretty easy early on. That's why they went 7-2. But their out of division games this year are against like five teams that arguably could win their division: the Niners, the Jets, the Bills, the Saints, and the Dolphins. Like that's going to be tough because NFC East in general is always tough in division as well. Nobody's like rarely do teams just burn through the NFC East. That's one of the only things that I'll say I like about the division. It's generally competitive when they play each other. Commanders, they're out of division games similar to the Giants. They got the Jets, the Niners, the Bills, the Dolphins. I put the Patriots just because they're going to go to New England to play the Patriots. But for the Commanders, for me, they go as far as Sam Howell and his offense can take them. I do feel like they have a lot more athleticism on their defense than they show. I'm not sure if that's because Jack Del Rio just wants to be a stick in the mud or what. But if they could get anything out of Chase Young, health-wise and production, and some of these other guys who are talented, like Payne, who they re-signed, they could still be a formidable defense, but they will always need that offense to put up points. We'll go with you, Tony. What's your projection for Dallas? Do you know what their over-under on wins is? I think it's like 9.5 or something.
9.5.
Yeah.
Our front end schedule is a lot tougher than our back end. So, like I say, if we can get off to a decent start, I would put us right at 11.
Mm-hmm.
Drop down from last year. But like I said, that's given, offensive line health. Like if we get down like we did last year where we're patchworking an offensive line and we're not going anywhere. We're not going to be able to. But I would take the over 9.5.
Mm-hmm. All right, Sam, do you know the over-under for the Eagles? It's probably like 11.5.
11.5. I'm going to go under just because there's an absolutely brutal stretch where we play San Francisco, Buffalo, and Kansas City, and I just I just my gut says 10-7 would be my pick. I think that it could be. I think if the bottom fell out, they could lose as many as 9 games, but I think that 9-8, 10-7 is a pretty safe bet.
You'll get.
I think Dallas wins the division.
You get no quarter from me. I hope the Niners win by at least 40, and we keep our quarterback the entire game.
Which quarterback is that? The one you gave up the entire franchise for?
No, bro. I mean, it's not the Niners podcast, but I will tell you guys, Brock Purdy, since the day he took over, like taking snaps, is the quarterback. Like, even if we spelled it out for this man Trey, he can't beat Brock Purdy. Like, God, again, I go back to the same play. You run double hitches and you have a leak out in the flats for your safety valve, and this man didn't look at either hitch and just threw straight to the running back. Like, God bless you. Like, you're in the NFL, man. Like, like that's crazy. Like, it's just at that level, I need to see at least a left to right look. Both the hitches were open too. You didn't even give it a chance. You just went straight to the running back. Like, if you're that scared, go home. Go home. I can't play quarterback, but I'm just saying, go home.
Are we done with South Dakota quarterbacks forever?
Yeah, I think we should be. I wouldn't have. I didn't have a problem with the Wentz thing. Obviously, they didn't trade 3 first rounds for him, but like Trey Lance had no film. And again, I go back to his pro day. They're trying to help him how to properly throw in his pro day. Like, that's a red flag. Hello. Like, man, I just personally want to know who made the call. If it's Lynch, I'll punch him. If it's Kyle, I'll punch him. I just need to know who I need to punch, because it's one of the most boneheaded moves in recent memory when it comes to just like, there's no excuse for it. So do you have Dallas winning the division, Tony?
If we can get 11, I have us winning the division, but it's going to take that. It's not going to anything less won't win it, and it's going to be hard to like I say. I mean, Philadelphia has a hard schedule.
Yeah,
so
that's a brutal schedule.
We'll have to see how it plays out. But yeah, I think we could win the division, and that's the only way. If that's the only way we can win a playoff game, then I guess we got to win the division.
Last time back-to-back division winner, if I recall, 2004 Eagles. I think.
Has it been that long? Since I thought that sounds right.
Well, no. Okay, the Eagles went to the Eagles.
I can look it up real quick.
Super Bowl after their Super Bowl. Didn't the Redskins win that next year?
Let me see.
They won, but the year before. It's 05. The Eagles won in 03, 04,
yep,
and 04, 05.
Yeah.
So there hasn't been back-to-back since then.
Yeah. Let's see. 2004 Eagles, Giants 2005, Eagles 2006, Cowboys 2007. Yep, nobody has went back-to-back since 2004. Eagles won 4 in a row that year. 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004.
That's when their 4 straight NFC title games.
So shout out to me for not only being a hater, but an educated hater. But I mean, again, that just goes back to the competition in the division. Like, you really can't call it. And I'm pretty sure if we looked at those teams and we looked at the rosters, none of us would have predicted half of those winners. That's just how it plays out. And I've always been one of the people that says it's a division of chaos. And for that, I do enjoy the Monday night games, because you don't know what you're going to get sometimes. But I appreciate you guys coming on. What I plan to do is people who participate in the Fancast, when their teams match up in a Monday night game, I will bring you guys on to do a special segment with you to kind of talk trash and represent your teams. Joe will probably be with me then, because I think we're going to do live shows. But if there's ever a chance to do some analysis or something, you guys always will get first dibs as participants in the Fancast. Feel free to share it if you want, to highlight some bullet points, and then talk your trash, man. I mean, you guys obviously you don't have to tell that to Eagles fans, but Cowboys, it's still a safe space for you guys, regardless of what you think. Everybody does hate you, but the commissioner is literally a Cowboy fan, so we can only go so far.
For Sam, who was clowning about division championship hats.
It's ridiculous.
Gotta get the gear when you can, baby.
Tony, NFL anytime, NBA not a chance. Okay, just let me know.
Oh wow,
I'm not talking to you about NBA. I can't do the Luka stuff.
Oh, we let's talk Luka. There's other players. There's more to talk about than Luka.
But
we'll try to talk about Luka this year. It'll be too much.
Yeah. Again, thank you guys for coming on. And like I said, feel free to share. If you have any questions, shoot me a DM. All right.
Take care, guys.
Peace.
Later, guys.